Great. So just a brief overview before I hand back to Debbie to talk about kind of the overview of the project. So what we're going to be discussing today is the brief overview of County Durham Pound project, and then I'll take you through an introduction to social value and the National TOMS framework. Then we'll be talking about the County Durham Family TOMs in particular and the place-based approach that we've taken. And then we'll go through something called the do's and don'ts, which are advice and guidance on using the TOMs effectively, and then Q&A at the end. So sorry, we will stop the recording for a Q&A, but please do, if you have any questions at any time, either just kind of raise your hand. Oh, I can't breathe now. And we'll go through that way, or if you just want to type in the chat, that's absolutely fine. We'll be monitoring the chat. So over to you, Debbie.
Great, thank you. Yes, so as Olivia said, I'll just be doing a little bit of an overview of the County Durham Pound project. I know a lot of you have been involved from the start. You might be sort of familiar with a lot of this, and other people have sort of come on board as it's progressed. So the core objective is operating as a collective. The partners will ensure their buying and employer power and social value contributions work to benefit the people and communities of County Durham. Okay. So together with those the core objective, the following aims and objectives have been identified as ones to aspire to for the local businesses and people of County Durham, and that's to create more jobs for local people, prioritise better health and well-being, focus on equality, diversity and inclusion, reduce our impact on the environment, support with meaningful training and upskilling, and to help communities, groups and charities. Okay. So there's a lot more detail in the strategy, which everyone should have received now, but just to kind of give a bit of an overview of the time frame of the project, I'll just go through this briefly. So back in October, the social value element of the County Durham Pound project kicked off after several months of pre-project engagement with all the partners. And then there was partner one-to-one sessions on social value in November. Through to December, the County Durham Family TOMs framework development began. And then earlier this year, the local needs analysis was completed. From there, the County Durham Family TOMs framework was completed and the working group established. Moving into April, that's when the coordinator, me, was appointed, and NEPO became the project's first official supporter as well. So we've now had the statement of intent rather, signed by everyone and finalised. The accounts are being created on the portal, and the overarching social value strategy has been produced, and everyone should have received that now. We're obviously in the process of delivering the training sessions now, and we're looking at a live date for the social value knowledge hub sort of in the next few weeks, so that's just being finalised. So after that, we're hoping that by July we'll be able to collate the first quarter of reporting on social value, and thereafter it'll be sort of ongoing work through quarterly working group meetings. A quarterly progress report will be created by SVP, and then at the end of the programme there will be a case study produced, and then through to March 2024 where the statement of intent will be reviewed and updated. So that's kind of a whistle-stop tour of the timeline of the project, and as you can see there's a lot being achieved so far. Okay. So just to go through some of those mechanisms for unlocking social value which have been identified through the working group. So firstly, procurement. So as partners choose how to spend in their organisations, they'll want to ensure that what they buy creates additional benefits for the community. And this may mean that partners can collaborate on tenders, bids or contracts. We can also look at organisational activities and programmes. So these include all workplace initiatives that increase the social value for employees or the wider organisation. So, for example, equality, diversity and inclusion policies. Cycle to work scheme is another example there. Employability programmes for local people and employee engagement initiatives. Another mechanism that we've identified is through grant funding. So I'm aware, obviously, you know, several of the partners do offer grants to support social value initiatives. And this could include funding for community projects, not-for-profit organisations, or helping local businesses with innovation and the circular economy. Capital spending. So this is the money spent in the partner organisations on physical assets. So to increase social value, this could mean sort of environmental measures around replacing lighting with LED or adding solar panels to a building. And then the final one there is planning. So where this is applicable, it won't be applicable to everyone. Providing evidence of the social value the partners hope to generate through new development is becoming more of a focus for planning applications. Okay. I think that's I think that's the last slide on the overview. Does anyone have any questions before Olivia goes on to explain more about the TOMS framework? I know I've kind of blasted through that.
Balance is a good thing. Great. Well, in that case then, thanks Debbie for running us through the CDP stuff. So what we're now going to look at now is an introduction to social value and the National TOMS framework. So just to start off with, the National TOMS framework is a social value measurement framework that enables a consistent measurement solution that creates a level playing field for businesses. So it's designed to be embedded into social value procurement and measurement activities. It allows for benchmarking and comparability across suppliers, but also across projects. It gives practical ways of creating more social value for communities, and also has themes of visionary social value creation. So there we can see the 5 themes in the bubbles below. So you've got jobs, growth, social, environment and innovation. So within the National TOMS, which I'll explain about how they've come about in a second, but within the National TOMS framework, we have 20 outcomes that sit within those 5 themes, and then we also have 48 key core measures. So that's kind of the National TOMS, and I'll explain where they come from now. So the National Social Value Task Force that was formed to develop a national measurement framework for social value. So the task force is who kind of embedded the design, and from support of Social Value Portal have created the TOMS. So it's chaired by the Local Government Association and is supported by Cabinet and CCS. So you can see there just some of the partners involved, things including Durham County Council are in there as well. So as I say, the TOMS are kind of reviewed and updated currently annually. So we're just about to release the TOMS 2022 update, of which when you access the County Durham Family TOMs, they will be on those new proxy values within society. So the TOMS, what do we mean? So TOMS stands for themes, outcomes and measures. So down the left hand side, we have our 5 themes. First on the list is jobs. It's where they're focused on local skills and employments. We then have growth, which looks at responsible and local business. The third theme is social, where we're encouraging healthier, safer and more resilient communities. The next theme is environment, where we're focusing on decarbonising and safeguarding our world. And our final theme is innovation, where we're encouraging social innovation, as you may have guessed. Under each of our 5 themes, we then have our outcomes. You can see an example of an outcome under the jobs theme is more opportunities for disadvantaged people. Under the growth theme, some outcomes are more opportunities for local SMEs and VCSEs. So SMEs is small medium enterprises, whereas VCSEs is voluntary community and social enterprises. Under the social theme, an example of an outcome is reducing inequalities, and under the environmental theme, reduction of carbon emissions and air pollution. So that's kind of what you've got sitting under there are those various outcomes, and throughout the process we've selected the ones that are relevant for this project for County Durham Pound. And then under each outcome we then have the measures, and this is where you're able to record your tangible data. As an example of a measure could be the number of ex-offenders employed, the spend in the local supply chain, or even the number of voluntary hours completed. Each measure also has a unit and a proxy value associated with it. And you can see some of the examples on the screen there. Our proxy values are created by our TOMS development and insight team and are based on government resources such as the Green Book and data from the ONS. We calculate your total social value by taking the sum of the measures multiplied by the value. A working example would be if you employed 3 ex-offenders on a specific contract, we would then take 3 people, times it by the proxy value, and then you'd end up with around £69,000. So that's kind of how we do it, but you don't need to worry about how that is necessarily calculated. What is important for you to worry about is what is the measure and what is the unit, because the portal will do all the rest of that for you. So kind of the TOMS methodology and what sits behind that. So our TOMS methodology is developed from benefit analysis techniques outlined in the Treasury Green Book and other relevant public sector guidelines. We make use of market prices and other monetary valuation techniques. We use data from reliable public sector sources or peer-reviewed studies. As I say, we're currently updating them annually, and proxy robustness and maturity ratings are applied to ensure transparency and internal consistency. So as I say, it's not just like we take any numbers, it goes through this rigid methodology. And on the right there, you can see the proxy design process. So it's things such as identification of the issue and the data source. And they're just some of our initial data sources, things such as unit cost database, Office of National Statistics, and other academic research. That data then goes through a refinement process, and also additional data is then cleansed and added to it. So what does that mean for you as a partner for the County Durham Family TOMs? So what we've done is the whole project is based on a place-based approach. So what we did to start off with was do one-to-ones with County Durham family members. So as you can see here, kind of all the partners are listed of who we went and spoke with. And what we did from that is we then outlined their priorities. So some of the priorities include things such as social isolation, jobs and apprenticeships, tackling inequalities, training and upskilling, volunteering, economic inclusion, EDI, decarbonisation, employee health wellbeing, antisocial behaviour, COVID-19. So as I say, these are just kind of the key common themes that came at us. And then what we also did was we also understood the needs of the local needs analysis that we undertook. So what we did was a policy review, a deprivation analysis, and then an overview of the support ecosystem. And there's just a note there to thank the contributors at the bottom from DCC and from the Research, Public Health and Intelligence team for their input and advice on ensuring that actually this local needs analysis was a true representation of County Durham. So what are the key insights from it? So what we do through a local needs analysis, if we look at the indices of multiple deprivation, IMD, which are the measures of relative deprivation used to rank neighbourhoods across the UK. So you can see there the kind of key areas, things such as income, employment, education, skills and training, health, crime, barriers to housing and services, as well as living environment. And then what we did, as you can see here on the map on the right, we've mapped them to the County Durham. So you can see those areas in red, in particular those to the eastern side of the county, are particularly suffering from high severe deprivation. And you can see the areas in green, so things such as down in the kind of southwest area, and they're actually got low deprivation for the county. So what in other words we've done is we've got a whole local needs analysis report available for you to be able to understand what is the deprivation in County Durham. So some key insights that came out of that, just to highlight kind of a few of them. There are 3 small areas within County Durham, all listed there. Things such as the lower layer super outer output areas, so the LSOAs, which have a population of roughly 1,500 people, that rank within the lowest 100 in England for employment deprivation. So that's really low. So out of the 32,000, they're within the lowest 100. The wards with the highest proportion of residents that experience the greatest levels of overall deprivation across County Durham are Aycliffe West, Peterlee East, Craghead, Southmoor, Shildon, Dean Valley, Shutton, South Heddon, Tolaw and Woodhouse Close, all of which 100% of their population living in the areas experience high to severe overall deprivation. So they're the particular wards that we would like to potentially focus on certain areas of social value. Over 2/3 of the county's residents' population live in areas experiencing high to severe levels of health deprivation. And also County Durham has a higher percentage of 16 to 17-year-old NEETs, which is not in employment, education or training, and lower GCSE attainment levels than the North East region on average. But there are some things to kind of remember as positives that came out of the local needs analysis. It's not always important to ensure that you've got a true representation of the county. So it's important to remember that the employment rate is 28% lower than the regional average. County Durham sends 11% more household waste, recycling, reuse, composting compared to the regional average. And also compared to the regional average, the number of rough sleepers in the county is 85% lower. So you've definitely got some really good positives there, but it's about ensuring and fostering and facilitating those positives to continuously improve, but also have some of those particular areas such as educational attainment and also overall deprivation and health deprivation to ensure that you are supporting those within your communities that need that the most. So the County Durham Family Social Value TOMs. So what do we do? So we took that local needs analysis, we took the partner's social value priorities, and then we went and mapped them onto the national TOMs. So when we mapped them across the national TOMs, we've now come out with the following. We've got the 5 themes and 17 outcomes that you can see in the table to the left, and we have 36 core measures. So within that, we've got the jobs, growth, social, environment and innovation. And it's really important just to kind of highlight a few of them, things such as the local employment, opportunities for disadvantaged people, or even things such as more working with the community and resource efficiency for circular economy solutions to ensure that you are fostering that good environment that you're supporting in. So I'm going to kind of jump into what is the TOMs, but before I do that, does anyone have any questions so far? Fabulous. Let's get going. So TOMs advice and guidance. So first things first is, what do we actually capture through the TOMs? So we talk about social value, and what is social value? Social value is ensuring that organisations are providing back to the communities of which they work in. So by using the TOMs framework, we can quantify social value. So what we've got for here, we capture 2 things. We capture social value and local economic value. So social value is used to describe measures where we can see net additional benefits to both the local community and wider society. This is what we mean by additionality. The TOMs is based on the idea of unlocking additional social value, because we're looking for additionality. We need to compare what is being proposed against a baseline or a BAU scenario. So what we're looking at is, what are the wider benefits to society for you going above and beyond to deliver social value to the communities of County Durham? And then local economic value is used to describe the benefit to a local economy through spending and employing locally on the contract. The TOMs framework takes into consideration displacement, and GVA and ASHE multipliers are used on all projects to ensure that the value of a local is each project is calculated. So what we're looking for local economic value is we're looking at local spend and local employment and how that's going to benefit the County Durham economy. As I say, two really important things, but really key takeaways to ensure that we are capturing the additionality generated on your contract or within your organisation. So what we can also do through this TOMS framework is capture something called the social local economic value add. So it's also known as SLEVA on the portal. And when you go through further series of trainings through the County Durham Pound project, you will be introduced to the portal. And so it's always kind of good to kind of drop it in now about that acronym SLEVA. So what it is asking for every pound that's been spent, how much are you delivering for the communities? So we work this out by the total value of what is being delivered, the social local economic value, divided by the total contract value times by 100. So that's kind of what we're working out there. So just going to jump on to one brief example of social value. So obviously we've spoken about the 36 measures that you've got available to you within the County Durham Family TOMs. But what we're looking at here is just one example of one measure. But it's really important to remember that social value goes far beyond the socio-economic analysis. And for this example, it asks not only how many jobs you got, but who gets that job and what is the benefit and the value of that person being employed. So which is worth more from the perspective of society and the individual. So what you've got is you've got one job available on this within your organisation or on this contract. If you're looking at a contract specific light, is we're looking at job and we're going, who are we going to hire? What specific recruitment program can we do to ensure that we have social value additionality? So on one hand, we have an individual who's from a happy family, a good education, a good CV and no criminal record. Whereas on the other hand, we have people from troubled family. They left school at 16 with no formal qualifications and they've got a petty criminal record, which is likely to get worse and get caught within the cycle of crime. So what we're asking here is, what at the top of the salary, which is what would have happened anyway, which is worth more, what's that additionality? So if you were to just go recruit a person on the left, there is just the salary. There's no more additionality that can be claimed. Whereas if you hire and do a specific recruitment program, you partner with a VCSE, a charity that works specifically with, say, young offenders, you can actually get the social value additionality as well as the salary, because what you're doing, you're going above and beyond to deliver additionality within society. Let's say it's kind of just one easy example to kind of think about within 36 measures that you have available to you is, what can you do as an organisation to ensure that you are going above and beyond to foster additionality within the communities you're working in? So the national TOMs, there's a lot of them. There's 36 available for you. How are you going to know what you have to provide? So the TOMs can be used in procurement. And if they are used in procurement, what we have is something called the target guidance. So for every single measure, we outline what you would have to provide at a procurement stage. So it's really, really clear for either if you are bidding or if you have people bidding for your work. It's clear to them on the requirements of what they have to provide. So they can see there for both NT1 and NT18, which is local employees hired on a contract and local spend on a contract. What we're looking at is both the local economic value figures. What do you have to provide right now? So for this first one, we can see here you've got to summarise the strategy for directly employing your target number of local people on this contract. And you can see, say, for the NT18, you can see specify the name of each eligible supplier, including the industry and category of goods or services to be procured, as well as the first 3 digits of the postcode. So that's kind of clear outlined what you have to do. And as I say, this is really transparent in the TOMS framework. And what we also have within the TOMS framework are evidence requirements that are clearly outlined as well. All this information is open source, and also you would have been shared the TOMS. So we've created kind of an Excel for you, as well as a PDF that will be available on that Knowledge Hub, which has all this information. But say for things such as NT1, which is local direct employees, you can see that there are 4 things you have to provide. the duration of employment, the employment status, the FTE, the full-time equivalent, and the first 3 digits of the postcode. So as I say, I understand that sometimes the TOMs can be overwhelming if they're the first time we've ever kind of encountered them, but there's a lot of guidance available for you to be able to understand kind of what you have to provide and where we can kind of go from that. So before we kind of jump into the deep dive of the actual TOMs itself, it's 3 o'clock. So shall we have a quick 5-minute break, and then we'll come back and deep dive into the bulk of it. Fab. Great. And we will see you all at, say, 5 past. Thanks, everyone. Hello, are we back? If you just want to put a thumbs up if you're back.
I'm back.
Great, I see thumbs coming up. Great, so let me share my screen and we can get carrying on. So please do not worry if kind of all the stuff I'm about to say goes in one ear and out the other. That's absolutely fine. What we're here to do is just kind of give you the context. As I say, the session is being recorded anyway, so you can go back at any point and see any of the things that I've said. But a lot of this information I'm about to tell you is within the guidance of the measures. So please do just kind of refer back to the measure guidance, have a look around everything, and then say if you do have any other questions, do reach out to Sarah and Debbie and they will be able to assist you. But as I say, do not worry, this is just kind of there to be an introduction to the TOMS. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go kind of measure by, well, outcome by outcome, and I'm just going to briefly speak to you about what the measures are. So what are those 36 measures we've selected, and kind of what are the kind of beauties of the measures, what are the things to watch out for, just so you're kind of aware. So we're going to start with the first theme, which is jobs. So within the first theme, we have the outcome, more local people in employment. So within here, we've got our NT1, 1A, 1B and 1C. So all of these are all about calculating that local economic value for local employment. They're just in slightly different categories. So NT1 is all about the local direct staff you have working on the contract or for your organisation. So it's about who is local directly working for an organisation. NT1A is kind of in italics there because we know it's only going to be relevant for those who use the TOMS for procurement. So it's those who are individuals that are local, which are hired on the contract as a result of a 2P transfer. So they are staff that move with the contract. We then have NT1B. So these are employees that are either direct or through the supply chain, which are from targeted areas. So when we say targeted areas, we are talking about those specific wars of deprivation that we spoke about. I mentioned earlier in the presentation that came out of those local needs analysis. Then what we've also got is NT1C. So this is the local employees that work on the supply chain. So this local employment capture kind of all the circumstances of local employment there is. You'll notice every single measure in these two themes has got the number of people FTE unit. So that is number of people full-time equivalent. So what that means is if you have one person working full-time for a year, that would equate to 1. But say you had 2 people working for 6 months, that would also be 1 or 0.5 each. So it enables you to kind of break down and understand that equivalent value. So there's lots of resources available to assist with this. And in particular, there's a video called the Do's and Don'ts video that breaks it down into more detail. And there's a calculator on the portal available to assist. You then have your next outcome, which is more opportunities for disadvantaged people. So here we've got NT3, 4, 5 and 6. So NT3 is about the people, actually first to say, all of these are for new employees and it's only for their first year of employment they can be captured for. And it's about those who have been hired through a specific recruitment programme to enable them to kind of get over those barriers that they currently face into employment. So the first one, NT3, is those who are long-term unemployed. So the definition of that is 1 year or longer. We then have NT4, which is needs, which as we kind of saw in the local needs analysis, is a particularly high issue for 16 and 17-year-olds within Durham. We then have NT5, which is 18 plus ex-offenders or rehabilitating offenders. We then have NT6, which is a number of full-time equivalent disabled individuals hired on the contract. So I say important things to note out for them, still FTE, so full-time equivalent. They can only be captured for their first year of employment. The reason for this is because that is capturing the social value as a social value proxy figure, and the social value works out the benefit to the individual, to the community and to society, i.e. government, for getting them into employment. So that's why we can do it the first year. We then also have within the jobs theme, we then have our improved skills measured outcome. So here we have NT8. So NT8 is number of staff hours spent on local school or college visits supporting pupils. So these can be things such as delivering career talks, curriculum support, literacy support, safety talks. So this is the unit for this is number of staff hours. But it's important that you can actually in this measure also include the number of preparation hours, i.e. if you are presenting slides or if you're kind of getting together an activity for the participants within the school to do, you can capture those hours that are involved in the preparation. We then have NT9. So NT9 is number of weeks of training opportunities. So you can see there just listed a few of the qualification boards, things such as BTEC, City and Guilds, NVQ, HNC. But it's really important that they have to be a level 2 or above. So what we're asking is number of weeks completed by a new employee who are doing a qualification level 2 above. So it's really, really important there again that it's new employee, but also that you're looking at kind of those level 2 or above formal qualifications. NT10 is then looking at number of apprenticeships or T levels, which again are level 2, 3 or 4 or above, provided on the contract. So this can be for individuals that either joined your organisation as an apprentice. So say you are doing a contract social value and actually you've got an individual that joined 4 months ago and they're still on their level 3 apprenticeship, the one they originally joined on, they can be captured. But it can't be including of upskilling. So say you do decide to upskill a current member of your staff and put them onto apprenticeship, that cannot be included within this measure. There are other measures within the National TOMS framework we have for upskilling via apprenticeships. Then we've got HE1. So just to kind of understand what HE1 means, HE means our higher education. So we did higher education plugin, and what we would do plugins is we kind of create an industry specific task force, and then we work with them to produce measures that are really relevant to kind of the social value that they as an industry can deliver. So we've created a higher education one, and because quite a lot of the partners we have within the County Durham Pound project are actually all within the higher education or education, we've included this measure. So this is number of staff expert hours spent supporting procuring organisations' curriculum through guest lectures, practical workshops and case studies and research projects, etc. So this again is number of staff expert hours. Moving on to our next outcome, we have improved employability of young people. So here we have NT11. So this is number of support into work assistance provided to unemployed people through things such as career mentoring, mock interviews, CV advice or careers guidance. So this is number of hours times attendees, this unit. It's really important that to make this meaningful, true social value, it has to be no more than 15 attendees within a group. So if you are doing group sessions, please make sure that they are limited to 15 individuals. The reason for that is the social value proxy is looking at the benefit to the individual, and through research we kind of feel like anything above 15, what is the true direct impact that you're getting as an individual? We want to ensure that they're being empowered and having as much assistance as possible. We then have NT13, so this is meaningful work placements that pay the minimum or national living wage according to eligibility, and these are 6 weeks or more. So if you do have any, say, internships or you do have any placements going on within your organisation, they have to be for 6 months or 6 weeks or longer, and they have to be paid minimum wage. So that kind of covers off our jobs theme. So as I say, you're kind of looking at local employment, opportunities for disadvantaged people, and then we're also looking at improving skills and also improving employability of young people. So they're kind of the measures that are available to you. Key things to look out for, and kind of if you're wanting to fully learn the TOMS, is take time to understand the FTE, so full-time equivalent, do some research into that, and just make sure that you're applying the units always correctly to the measures. Looking at our next theme, we have the growth theme. So here, our first outcome that we're looking at is more opportunities for local MSMEs and VCSEs. So what we're looking at here is medium, small, micro enterprises, and then we've also got VCSEs, voluntary, community and social enterprises, so that kind of third sector. So NT15 is our first measure we've got here. So this is provision of expert business advice to VCSEs and MSMEs, though this can be kind of what your area of specialism is. And this is number of expert hours that have been provided. We then have NT17, so this is number of voluntary hours donated to support VCSEs, so not your expert business advice. So just to kind of touch upon what we mean by expert advice compared to normal voluntary advice. So say you are a lawyer. If you decide to provide a specific legal advice to someone, that would use your qualifications and it would be kind of what you're considered an expert within your industry in. Whereas if that lawyer then goes and donates their time to kind of help and support a food bank, that isn't using their expert skills. It is still using their time, but it can't be clarified as the expert because those individuals who are receiving that benefit aren't receiving kind of the expert advice. So that's kind of from an outsider view what we kind of look at expert compared to normal. But it is really, really important that for both of these scenarios, in any volunteering kind of time captured within the TOM, it has to be either paid overtime or it has to be throughout working hours or time back in lieu. Because the reason for that is what we're capturing here is the organisational social value. So if you genuinely have, say, a couple of individuals that are like to go volunteer in their own time and they don't get anything back from work for that, your organisation cannot claim that as your organisation's social value because you haven't facilitated and invested in that as an organisation. That's like really important just to kind of get your head around for the TOMS framework. And then what we also have here, NT 18, 19 and 19A, these are all the local economic value measures that are for the local spend. So working our way up from the bottom one, NT 19A, is your local spend with micro and small enterprises. If you then are, say, potentially spending with an organisation that doesn't fit that criteria, then have a look at NT19, which is micro, small and medium enterprises, so your MSMEs. And then if that doesn't work, then use NT18, which is just your local supply chain spend. So it's really important that you kind of work your way bottom up because we want to ensure that you are trying to spend with those micro and smalls, but if not, NT18 is really good that you are still spending locally. Improving staff and wellbeing and mental health. So we've got here NT20. So this number of employees that have been provided access for at least 12 months to comprehensive and multi-dimensional wellbeing programs. So it's really important these are not just access to an EAP or a private healthcare. It's about what are you as an organisation going to provide multi-dimensional wellbeing programs. These are things such as flexible working, healthy nutrition options, physical health programs. What are you doing to also support them, but also facilitate and encourage them to utilise the benefits that they've got available to them. So that is recorded by a number of employees provided access for 12 months or longer. You then have NT55. So this is number of employees provided with professional support for anxiety or depression, at least 6 sessions of CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy, following workplace screening. So this is the number of employees you provided access for. And then also finally in this outcome and within this theme, we have NT21. So NT21 is equality, diversity and inclusion training. So EDI for both staff and supply chain on the contract. So this unit is hours times attendees. So it's exactly the same unit as you've got for those CV workshops. For the CV workshops for NT11, we limited it to a group of 15. However, there is no limit on this measure. It's as long as you are providing that and you can capture the hours times attendees of both the staff and supply chain accessing EDI training. So moving on to our third and theme, we've got social. So the social, we've kind of got 4 outcomes within this one. So the first one is communities are safe and stronger regarding crime and antisocial behaviour. So we actually had one of the County Durham Family partners kind of suggest and the outcome wording for that there. So we've got NT24. So this is initiatives aimed at reducing crime, i.e. the things such as supporting local youth groups or lighting for public spaces, etc. So this measure and all of them actually here, apart from one, are investing in pounds invested, including staff time. So what we mean by this is, say as an organisation, if you donated resources, or if you brought certain amount of things, or you provided a cash donation, that could go in as the pounds invested. But also say you went and donated, I don't know, you went and donated £1,000 to an organisation, but then you also went and did a day's volunteering with them as well. What we can allow you to do is capture that staff time that you did, as long as it is paid overtime, time back in lieu, or during working hours, you can capture that staff time. So we have the kind of rates within the guidance is around £16 for normal volunteering time. But say you went and used your expert skills for that volunteering time, we have that expert rate around £100 as well. So if you are ever using these NT24 to 27, please do make sure that you are looking at the guidance, and if you are including staff time in these measures, make sure you are attributing them at the correct value. We then have creating a safe, healthier community, which is a really important one, especially considering what we saw earlier from the local needs analysis. So the first one is NT25, Initiative to Tackle Homelessness. So we've kind of got really good rates, low rates of homelessness at the moment within County Durham, but it's really important that you're supporting and facilitating that. So again, this is pounds invested. And then we also have, which should be a priority at the moment for all the partners, is NT26, which is initiatives taken or supported to engage people in health interventions within the community. So it's really, really important that that one is kind of at the top of the list, because what we did see there was that there is a low health deprivation within County Durham. We then have our final one, which is vulnerable people are helped to live independently as the outcome. So this is NT27, and this is initiatives to be taken to support older, disabled and vulnerable people to build stronger community networks. This can be things such as befriending schemes, digital inclusion clubs, etc. So it's really, really important that you do kind of have a look at those measures, and they are really cool ways of you being able to create innovative social value, because you might be able to do a really unique kind of project and invest in a project for quite a long time about things such as, say, reducing crime or in health intervention with a specific area in the community, maybe a specific ward. So they're really, really good social value measures for you to be able to kind of look at and see what you as an organisation, but as well as your suppliers, can achieve. We then got our final outcome within the social theme. So this is more working with the community. So you've got NT28, which is donations and or in-kind contributions to specific local community projects. So it's the pounds and the materials donated. So when we say pound value, if say you donated 10 laptops, you cannot be claiming the value of brand new laptops if say you've had them for 5 years within your organisation. It's about working what is the pound equivalent value when you donate those items. And then you also have NT29, which is number of hours volunteering time to provided to support local community projects. So what are those volunteering times for local community projects? So that is number of staff volunteering hours. So just really important to kind of highlight here is, say you are doing something, you're investing money, you're giving a cash donation, you're also giving some equipment, and then you're also donating your time, staff time, say a day, to a specific health intervention. If you've captured all of that stuff into NT26, you cannot then double count that and include in 28 and 29. You have to make sure that you're attributing your values correctly. So if you do a specific initiative that is relevant to one measure, please stick it in that measure and don't try to say, oh, well, I can fit it in here, here and here. It's about ensuring that you put it in the measure that's most applicable and that you're not double counting. So double counting is when you put your deliverable data in one or more measure and you're then over claiming what you've done. Please always make sure, and this is a really important theme, that you're focusing on that, because there's such a big opportunity for you potentially to double count as a risk. So please do make sure that you are selecting the correct measure and sticking with that. We then have the environment theme. So within the environment theme, we have the 3 outcomes, the first of which is CO2 emissions are reduced. So NT31 is looking at the CO2 emissions savings on a contract through decarbonisation. So this is about looking at a baseline of CO2 and what can you save above a baseline as additionality. So that's really important, and we do have something called a greenhouse gas savings emission calculator, which is in development and will be released soon, which you will be able to use as a partner organisation to work out your baseline to then be able to attribute the additionality. We then have air pollution is reduced, so this is NT32 and NT33. So the first NT32 is car miles saved on the project as a result of a green transport programme. So things such as either cycle to work schemes, or if you put on shuttle buses to ensure that your staff don't have to kind of all commute their own direct ways via cars. And then you've also got NT33, which is number of car miles driven using low or no emission staff vehicles, i.e. the vehicles that you have provided as an organisation, how many miles have they been driven on that. We then have our final outcome within the environmental theme. This is resource efficiency and circular economy solutions are promoted. So we've got NT72 here. So this is hard to recycle waste diverted from landfill or incineration through specific recycling partnerships, things such as Terra Recycle or other local recycling partnerships you've got available to you in County Durham. So it's really important, especially as you saw that you've got one of your highlights is your household recycling rates are really, really good. As an organisation as well, it's really important that you kind of ensure that you are doing your bit for your hard to recycle to ensure it's diverted from landfill or incineration. And then our final section is the innovation. So our final theme is innovation. So we've got the 4 themes here, but all of them are regarding each of the themes we have. So the first one is social innovation for local skills and employment. So the second one is support responsible business, i.e. growth. The third one is healthier, safer and more resilient communities, i.e. your social, and your final outcome is social innovation to safeguard the environment and respond to the climate emergency. So these are all relating to the 4 themes. So what these measures are an opportunity for yourselves or for your suppliers to be able to highlight ways of which they are doing innovative social value that might not fit into the previous 32 measures that I've spoken about. So it's really important that we don't want to kind of say no to social value. So by having these measures in, it's kind of an all-encompassing catch-22. So we can ensure that any social value, say they've gone and done a specific project, I don't know, they might have created an app for something, but they can include that in here as long as they provide the pounds invested, including the staff time and resources, again at that TOMS value that is attributed, and it's all listed within the guidance of both the Excel and the PDF that will be available for you as partners. So that is kind of a high level whistle stop tour to all of the TOMs available for you. So do we have any questions now, or do we want to carry on and just get through kind of the last bit and then we can stop recording and get through any questions then? I'm going to take silence as move on, by the way. Great, silence. So we're now just going to catch up on something called the do's and don'ts of the So what this is kind of do's and don'ts of using the TOMS methodology. So these are simply our best practice techniques. So it's really important that kind of you take these and understand them. You can see here there's an access to video here. So once you get the slides and once Debbie sends them round, please do make sure if you are a little bit confused or you want to get recap, you've either got this video available for you, or I would actually recommend this video, which is a really good kind of infographic video we've created about the do's and don'ts. So what we're going to look at is we're going to look at accounting for employment, double counting, the definition of local, additionality, proportionality, and the evidence. So first things first, let's start with accounting for employment correctly. So the first step is to ensure that you're accounting for your employment correctly. When we measure employment, we use the unit FTE, which is known as full-time equivalent. The reason we measure employment in this way is so that we can see the comparison of full-time and part-time employees, as well as varying contract durations. By 1 FTE, we mean one person working full-time for 1 year, or potentially 2 people working for 6 months, or even 12 people working for 1 month. So it's really nice and easy until you have the part-time employees. So always make sure that you are kind of ensuring that you're attributing correctly on there. So what we've got here available on this slide is a quick reference tool that you can have a look at. But really importantly, we do have a units toolkit available for you on the calculator to work it out. But please do make sure that you are attributing correctly. And when I say that, I mean if your contract that you're capturing social value on is only 6 months, and say you've got 2 full-time employees on it, rather than thinking I've got 2 employees, that's going to be 2 FTE, please think actually at 6 months that is only attributed as 0.5 FTE per individual. So as I say, do not worry about that as much, but it's really important that once you start collecting your data for social value, you look at the evidence requirements for all the employment measures that you want to capture against. And then what I would recommend is just popping that into an Excel spreadsheet. It's really clear the requirements that you've got. And then once you've got that, you can then see and work out the FTE. We've got our next rule is kind of do not double count. So I've mentioned it a few times so far, but double counting is when you get when you count the same target or deliverable under 2 or more measures. So example 1 here we've got, if volunteering hours within the local community are claimed, these same hours cannot be claimed under the volunteering in local school or college visits NT8. Or if you count your local employment under NT1, you cannot also include the wages within the local supply chain. So if you're counting the local supply chain employment, you can't then also claim that supply chain spend. So it's about ensuring that if you do that, either pick a measure or you subtract. Always remember the definition of local. So all social value commitments should be appropriate to the local area, i.e. within County Durham's boundary. So please do make sure that all your social value is always within County Durham. Do not include any core contract work. So if you are using social value on a contract basis, it's really important that you don't, especially if you're kind of bidding for work. If you're ever going to use it for procurement, please always make sure that social value is about the additional value. So therefore you cannot count any work or volunteering that is part of the core contract offer. So really good couple of easy examples here. If your core contract offer is to include low emission vehicles, then the carbon savings from these vehicles cannot be included in that NT33 low emission vehicles driven, because that is part of your core contract offer. As well, example 2, if your core contract offer involves supporting people back into work, this cannot be included within your social value offer, as it is actually what your core contract requirement is. It's what would have happened anyway when we look at that dead weight. Please do always remember proportionality. So none of the TOMS measures are mandatory. Therefore, yourself and your supplier should always ensure that what you're popping into the TOMS is proportional and relevant to kind of the contract or just the time frame of social value you're delivering. So it means that proportion to always be taken into consideration, and if you are doing a contract by contract value, please do make sure it is proportional to that value. When we say that, I spoke about the SLEVA earlier, the social local economic value additionality. So every pound that's being spent, what's the additionality as a percentage? If that's above 100%, you think you might potentially have an issue there because you're delivering more social value than the contract value is worth. So it's always making sure that you've got proportionality in mind. Also, if you are using the TOMs to kind of bid on any work, or people are bidding for you, the proposal must always directly relate to the initial term of the contract, not any extensions. The reason for this is we want people to commit against guaranteed social value rather than hypothetical social value. So we always recommend you do it on the initial contract value. And then the final thing from me today is always, and this is really, really important for a best practice technique, is that yourselves and any organisations, any suppliers using the TOMs, that you provide the supporting information for every commitment. So the supporting information is an important contributor to a qualitative submission if you're using it for bids, but also for verifying social value. It's really, really important that you're providing that, but also you're going one step further and providing a narrative. So social value is about the communities and the people directly that you impact. So actually, what is your narrative? What have you gone above and beyond? Have you taken pictures? Have you spoken to people? Have you got quotes to directly be able to say this impacted the community or the environment by X, Y, and Z? So please do, if I can stress anything, make sure that when you're looking at these TOMs, when you get them, please make sure that you're looking at the target guidance if you're ever going to use it in a bid level. But most importantly, when you are capturing your social value that you've delivered, look at the evidence requirements, and then also question yourself and think, what narrative can I provide to ensure that the meaningful social value is being delivered? And that is everything from me. So I think what we'll probably do now is we'll stop the recording so that it's not too long. And then we've got kind of 15 minutes for any questions. If not,